Greetings, mercenaries, galactic wanderers, and voyagers of the Star Wars galaxy, and welcome back. I have been expecting you. If there is anything at all to be said about the lore we cover on this channel, as it is lightly circumstantial and regards knowledge about the ancient Sith Lords, with the ancient Sith Lords being personally my favourite subject to cover here on these videos, with them having such innate force sensitivity and unique array of powers that mirror and put to shame the powers of even the most mightiest of the more modern Sith Lords in the Bainite era. One of these Sith that is incredibly notable in the Star Wars community was Exar Kun, one of the longest lived and most powerful of these ancient Sith Lords, rivaling the power of a being such as Darth Malak and Darth Revan. Exar Kun went down in history as the inventor of the double-bladed lightsaber, and perhaps the greatest lightsaber duelist to have ever existed, besides Tulak Horde and Grand Master Luke Skywalker, and even this is merely speculation on Legends fans' parts. So, join us, grab a snack, as we delve into the pages of history and immerse ourselves in the history of the double-bladed lightsaber and its creator in Dark Lord of the Sith, Exar Kun. Exar Kun was a human male Jedi Knight who fell to the seductive allure of the dark side, born in 3996 BBY on Yavin 4. Exar Kun was an exceptionally formidable being, assuming the mantle of Dark Lord of the Sith, and waged a destructive war against the Galactic Republic against the Jedi Order during the era of the Old Sith Wars, prior to the birth of Revan and prior to his death in 3996 BBY. Kun is apprenticed to the respected Jedi Master known as Vodo Sidious Bas, and in his days as a student, came across multiple forbidden documents and tablets, as well as knowledge of the history of the Sith Order. Fueled with power and extremely confident in his abilities and naturally quick to anger, Kun was filled with a burning and insatiable curiosity regarding the Sith and their power, and soon ventured out alone on a quest to find out as much as he could about their awe-inspiring dark side energies. Kun's search led him to the planet Ondron, where it had once been ruled by a Sith Lord named Freedon Nad. With the help of a pair of Nad's followers and cultists, Kun came across Nad's tomb on Ondron's moon, Duxon. There was confronted with the spirit of the dead Sith Lord himself. It is important to note that Duxon, it was the same planet that Darth Bane would once go to gain the knowledge from Freedon Nad's holocron, as Freedon Nad was widely regarded as the greatest Sith Lord in the history of the galaxy at that time, behind Marka Ragnos, Karnus Mur, Exar himself, and Vitiate. Seeing a potential in Kun avenue to regain a physical form, Nad directed the young Jedi to the ancient Sith homeworld of Korriban. There, Nad conspired to grievously injure Kun, only healing the man when he accepted the dark side into his heart and rejecting the art. Kun's next stop was the moon of Yavin 4, a place with its own Sith history and the same place that the Rebel Alliance, led by Mon Mothma and various others, would one day establish their headquarters on many millennia later. Kun then enslaved the primitive Masasai, a caste of the Sith purebloods and the Mind warriors, who wielded heavy battle axes that were stated to need 2 hands to carry despite their bulky build. He enslaved the Masasai living there and compelled them to build extensive temple complexes across the forested world that still stand to this day. Soon afterwards, the fully corrupted Kun banished Nad's spirit, having never trusted the old Sith and knowing that the Sith's treacherous ways would ultimately lead to his demise or reincarnation in Exar's body, and in the process had learned of several other nascent darkside users who had learned from Nad. Seeing Nad's other apprentices, Satal and Ali Makito, Tetan nobles who had founded the Krath cult and conquered their native star system, as a threat, Kun set out to absolutely decimate them from the galaxy. On Empress Teta, Kun encountered Ulic Qel-Droma, a Jedi Knight who had recently lost his master to a Krath attack and had gone undercover within the group to seek revenge. Qel-Droma had been seduced by the dark side himself and the rage and sorrow he felt from losing his master, and while the two briefly duelled, the battle was ended when the spirit of the long-dead Dark Lord of the Sith known as Marka Ragnos, one of the greatest and most formidable of all the Dark Lords, who was stated to have pioneered the Golden Age of the Sith, appeared as an apparition to proclaim the two fit to call themselves Sith Lords due to their immense power. Ragnos then proclaimed Exar Kun, seeing him as a superior both force-wise and through the use of the lightsaber, although Exar would later comment that Ulic Qel-Droma was the only one he considered to be his equal. As the more fit to hold the mantle of Dark Lord of Sith, claimed him as the Dark Lord, with Ulic then claiming apprenticeship under him. Then together, they resolved to bring a Sith Golden Age back to the galaxy the like the Sith hadn't seen since the reign of Marco Ragnos, almost 2 millennia prior. Allied with the remnants of the Krath and the Mandalorian warrior clans who they had swayed to their side, Kun and Kel Droma commenced a bloody crusade against the Republic starting in 3996 BBY. In the early commencing stages of the conflict, Kun ventured to the Jedi library world of Ossus, murdered the Jedi Keeper of Antiques, Odan and took possession of a rare and coveted Sith holocron. This Sith holocron was none other known as the Dark Holocron, an artifact which we will make a video about later. Kun then took on several prosthetic Jedi followers back to Yavin 4, where he used the holocron's power to corrupt them and reshape them into his Brotherhood of the Sith. Kun sent his Brotherhood out into the galaxy to murder their masters and wreak havoc, turning the Jedi against the very beings who had taught them the Force. At the same time, he headed through the Republic capital world of Coruscant to rescue Ulic Qel-Droma, who had recently been captured after launching an ill-advised assault on the planet impulsively. Ever the showman, Kun burst into the Senate Hall in the middle of Qel-Droma's trial for the war crimes, murdering Supreme Chancellor Sid Drona and setting Qel-Droma free. On his way out, he was confronted and engaged in a duel with his former master, Sidious. Unable to talk the Kravaki to joining his side, sensing his immense power in the Force and in the lightsaber, Kun instead unveiled his new invention, the double-bladed lightsaber, something which would permanently etch himself into the pages of history forever, and killed Bas in the following duel, despite Vars nearly beating Exar on not this occasion, but multiple occasions prior using his Force-imbued staff. Distrustful of the being known as Alma Keto, who had been responsible for Qel-Droma's capture, Kun sent her death soon after, manipulating her into causing a massive supernova in the Kron cluster that was sure to destroy the planet Ossus. Ahead of the Jedi Order's chaotic evacuation of the doomed planet, Kun and Qel-Droma descended on Ossus and ransacked the Great Jedi Library for its ancient treasures and the knowledge of the Forbidden Section that held the secrets to the dark side. While Kun made it out, and it was a sizable haul, Qel-Droma got caught in combat and murdered his brother, who was taken prisoner and stripped of his connection to the Force. Shattered by his brother's death, Qel-Droma switched sides and led the Jedi to Kun's base on Yavin 4, betraying his good friend and master. In the ensuing battle, Kun refused to go quietly, conducting an ancient ritual to liberate his spirit from the mortal world so he could wreak havoc throughout the cosmos in the many millennia that prior, and something that he would eventually succeed in. While he did not entirely succeed, while the ritual worked as intended and the Jedi thought him dead, Kun's spirit was permanently encased in Yavin 4 for the next several millennia, until the year known as 11 ABY, where the Jedi Master, and now Grand Master Luke Skywalker, who had recently, 7 years prior, defeated Darth Vader and aided in the defeat of Emperor Palpatine, as well as was scouring out the remains of the Imperial Empire, established a Jedi training ground on Yavin 4 to lecture his own Jedi Academy, as he attempted to erect a new Jedi Order and various temples after the old Jedi Order's destruction at the hands of the Galactic Empire via the Great Jedi Purge in 19 BBY. After thousands of years in isolation, Kun attempted to influence Skywalker's apprentice to do his bidding, successfully turning the young Padawan known as Kip Duron, an immensely powerful and prodigiously talented being, to the dark side, and severely wounding Skywalker. However, the rest of Skywalker's apprentices banded together, and with the help of the long-dead shade and apparition of Sidious, banished Kun's spirit to the void of space, and finally put an end to his machinations and schemes behind the scenes. But how powerful was this immensely formidable being? The venerated Jedi Master Sidious named Exar Kun the most formidable student he had ever trained. His power force only grew once he accepted the dark side into his heart. Exar Kun was no pushover, and was widely regarded as one of the most formidable Sith in history. Once his choice was made, Kun lost the ability to tap into the light side of the Force, as shown by his loss of the ability to draw on the light side to employ Force deflection against the weapons of the Masasai. But the dark side offered new possibilities, and new abilities to master beyond what Kun could possibly conceive. Before transcending the Jedi and becoming a Sith, Exar Kun began drawing on the dark side when he flew into a Force rage upon being clawed by Silva, then brutally defeated her and while enraged, attempted to end her life, being stopped only by his master striking him ere he could land a death blow. He felt a similar anger and fury when he looted a Sith tomb and the cultists tried to stop him from taking the dark side artifacts, treasures, and tomes. when he submitted to the dark side, he was able to invoke rages with more ease, calling on the power of the dark side to augment his strength. Moreover, he could use the Force to guide and summon his attacks to cause more inflicted harm. Similarly, Exar Kun could augment his body with the Force and make use of battle mind. Kun also possessed a keen Force sense and was able to detect the Masasai via the dark side presence and perceive the power in their temples. Later knowing the precise and exact location of magic items held by other Sith mages and cultists. Kun performed great telekinetic leaps and bounties if needed through Force augmentation, even dodging a Sith worm, an ancient being devised by Sith spawn in the early days of the Sith Empire. He could also step off ledges and land safely. Kun could also bolster his physical might to the point that he shattered the Dark Holocron with a single punch, freeing the Sith power to infect and turn Jedi who watched him to the dark side. Later, he was so strong he was able to hack apart Master Voto's Sidious sparse, Force-imbued staff and slay the Jedi in a climactic duel, although it should be noted that the Master was heavily aged and was getting into his elder years. He could use telekinesis in a myriad of unique ways, such as pulling a lightsaber to his hand or drawing a Sith amulet into his hand from across a grand hall. As a Sith Lord, he could use the Force Wound ability to destroy the internal organs of foes, while still being multiple meters away, hurl people and items away from himself effortlessly, and create small whirlwinds to buffet, trap, or harm people in Force energy. He was also able to use the Force to pull and disarm technique, as demonstrated when he ripped the Dark Holocron from the hands of Odin. Kun was able to fling the silver away with absolute effortlessness and ease. Kun could raise the Corsair with his telekinetic might. His defenses against telekinesis were not perfect, however, as Odin subjected him to a Force strike upon the success of the Holocron that pierced through his barrier. Exar Kun is unquestionably one of the most formidable beings in all of the lore when it comes to the dark side mortal conventional Force users. And in my mind, Exar Kun rivaled beings like Tulak Horde in terms of pure power, and Darth Malak. Exar Kun was such a formidable being. I personally would estimate his midichlorian count was higher than that of even Yoda's, and he would have become a being more powerful than Yoda if he was allowed to reach his full potential, but due to the fact he died when he was roughly around 25 years old at the time, Exar Kun never got to explore the upper limits of his Force strength. Exar Kun's Force sensitivity was estimated being around 19,000, which is unfathomably high, being a bit lower than that of Palpatine and Starkiller, who are two of the most powerful Force users we know in the modern era of Legends continuity. Well, my acolytes, what did you think of this video, and the inventor of the double-bladed lightsaber, and a brief outlook on his monstrous, nigh unprecedented power? Exar Kun nearly succeeded in dominating not only one, but two Jedi Orders single-handedly, with Exar Kun nearly single-handedly dominating and killing Grandmaster Luke Skywalker and his Jedi Praxium, but also nearly defeating the Jedi Order of the Old Republic, seducing a third of the Jedi Order and their Padawans into the dark side in order to augment the dark side energies flowing in the galaxy. Farewell, my acolytes. I'll see you in the next lecture, and remember, adorn yourself in your Jedi robes and pay your respects, as into the tombs you now go.